Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Pastor Mike Drotis, Bible teacher and preacher, and you've tuned into my YouTube channel, Solving the Prophetic Puzzle. I am now in the middle of a three-part teaching on little-known details of the first Christmas. If you haven't seen part one, that's fine. These lessons are independent of one another. After you watch this lesson, you can go back after this and catch up on the other one. And stay prepared for the third lesson that I will release on Christmas Day as a special Christmas message to all of you. I've been talking about the Christmas story and the things we don't know that make it even more amazing. Little known facts that are there, they're details, they're in the book, they're in the Bible, but we overlook them. We understand the Christmas story to some basic view. We understand that Joseph and Mary were betrothed. We remember that Mary had conceived a child before they came together. Joseph and her came together as husband and wife. She bore a child. She conceived a child while she was a virgin. We remember that there was a census, a worldwide census. God directed that king, that emperor, to declare that census at the exact time when Jesus was to be born, because Jesus had to be born in Bethlehem. And Mary and Joseph were in Nazareth at the time. So God got them right there into Bethlehem. We remember there's no room in the inn. Jesus then was and Joseph went out and Mary went out to the stable, and Jesus was born in the stable and laid in a manger. And we talked about how he's wrapped in swaddling clothes and how amazing all that is. Then we talked about the shepherds, the anointed shepherds who were sent there by the angels to worship, to see the Christ, to see the spotless, sinless Lamb of God, the one that they had been waiting for. And some have mistakenly said that night also they were visited by three kings. Now that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at the three kings, or at the Magi, and we're going to uncover little known details about these three wise men. So let's get into that. Matthew chapter 2. We'll start off in Matthew chapter 2. Now, this is very important. When you read the Bible, you have to read the Bible. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem. Note, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem. By most accounts, this was approximately 2 years later. 2 years later that Jesus was back in Nazareth when the wise men came. 2 years later. That makes sense because Herod told the soldiers to go to Bethlehem and kill every child under 2 years of age. So this is 2 years later. The wise men were not there on the night that Jesus was born. It was 2 years later. We also know the time period approximately because it says that Herod was king and Herod died in 4 BC. So it had to be before BC that this happened. Now don't get all concerned about your timeline. It all works out perfectly well. Jesus was born prior to 0. 0's not even a year. 0's a place mark. But we know that Jesus, or at least I believe that Jesus was crucified on April 6, 30 AD. So we also know that he was 33 and a half years old. So he was born prior to the year 0. He was born right at this time. everything works out. Now, the wise men were not in Bethlehem the night Jesus was born. It makes a great story, and it works well with our manger scenes, but the wise men came later. And who were these wise men? Where did they come from? They were not kings. As the song goes, we three kings. They were not kings. They were wise men. They were astronomers. They were scientists. They were mathematicians. They were ambassadors sent from other nations. You see, the other nations to the east had studied Daniel the prophet. It all goes back to Daniel, the great prophet Daniel. Daniel knew exactly when Christ would come. You can read Daniel chapter 9. Let's go there. Daniel 9. Verse 24, Daniel was in captivity at the time, and he's praying about his nation, and he's praying, are we ever going to get out of this, and what's going to happen to us? And then Gabriel comes and gives Daniel a message. And he says in Daniel chapter 9, verse 24, 70 weeks are determined for you and your people, for your holy city, to finish the transgressions, to make an end of sin, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up visions and prophecies, and to anoint the Most High. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to rebuild and restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah, the Prince, comes, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. 7 weeks and 69 weeks, or 483 years. After the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. Daniel knew the time period when Messiah would be cut off. And they had studied Daniel. He knew the approximate year. He also knew that there would be a great cosmic sign. Daniel chapter 7. This is probably one that the Magi were really studying. Daniel 7 verse 13. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, not that all peoples, nations, and language should serve him. His dominion is everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom, the one which shall not be destroyed. Daniel saw these night visions. They knew the time. So when the time was right and the sign, the star appeared, the Magi, the wise men, the astronomers, the scientists, the mathematicians, left their kingdoms from the east. They were sent as ambassadors to go and pay homage to the king whose star they saw in the sky and who Daniel had told them years ago about the Messiah. Now, what about the star? Let's go back to Matthew chapter 2, verse 2. They said to Herod, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. This star. I did a little studying about this star, and I studied up on some scientists and astronomers. Johann Kepler records that in 7 BC, a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter occurred in the constellation Pisces. Isn't that interesting? Pisces, the fish. Christians also often use the symbol of the fish for our faith. This conjunction where these two stars merged to make a bigger star occurred in the constellation Pisces. It was also discovered that during that same time, in April, in Passover of 7 BC, that 6 planets aligned in the sky, making a 15-degree arc. 3 comets were sighted over Jerusalem, over Judea, at the same time period in the spring of 7 BC. And 7 eclipses of the sun and moon occurred. There was a great celestial sign that was occurring in the sky in a Passover in 7 BC. Also, the 4th century Arabic astronomer Ogbid wrote that at the time of the birth of the prophet Jesus, I like how he says prophet, but this is secular people recording this. At the time of the birth of the prophet Jesus, over the city of Jerusalem could be seen for 30 consecutive days brilliant comets streaking across the sky. Philarius, the Greek-Roman historian astronomer of the 2nd century, said, "The tumult in the heavens with comets, alignments, eclipses, and conjunctions that accompanied the birth of the one whom the sect of Christians called Christ surely must have indicated that this was truly a miraculous birth. Even the heavens testified of him." So there was this great cosmic disturbance in the skies that occurred in Passover in 7 BC. And the kings from the east, the Magi, saw that, and they realized that that's what Daniel was talking about way back when he was serving kings in Babylon and the Medes and the Persians. Daniel was highly esteemed by those people. They venerated him, and other things that he wrote, they practically took it as gospel. So they studied Daniel. Daniel was very wise. And so when they saw the star that came about the same time that Daniel said the Messiah would come, they went to Judea to worship him. They came to worship him. Worship means the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration. These wise men were looking up, following the star, and they were looking for Jesus to worship. Are you worshiping God? Oh, that we would worship God. Oh, that God would be the most important thing, that Jesus would be the most important thing in our life. Oh, that we would not worship people or things or possessions or prestige or our plans, but that we would worship Jesus Christ. That is the wisest thing anyone can do. And I implore you, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added unto you. Realign your life with Christ as the shining star that you will follow and worship. Fall down and worship him. Oh, Jesus is so good. How many wise men were there? Let's go on. Matthew chapter 2, verses 3 through 12. I'm going to read a lot, but it's all good. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them, where the Christ to be born? So they said, in Bethlehem of Judea. For thus it is written by the prophet, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are not the least among the rulers of Judea, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people. Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem. And he said, go and search carefully for the young child. See, it's a young child. And when you have found him, bring back word to me, that I may come and worship him also. When they heard the king, they departed, and behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. Not Bethlehem, Nazareth. They ended up going to Nazareth. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding joy. And when they had come into the house, not stable, not manger, Joseph and Mary were living in a house in Nazareth, and Jesus was about 2 years old. They saw the young child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being divinely warned in a dream, they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country by another way. We don't know how many wise men Some say 3 because there was 3 gifts. Other Christian tradition says there were 12. We don't know how many wise men there were, but I have studied and heard that the caravan, that these magi came in, by some estimates, they say it was 17 different nations that sent these ambassadors from the east to come and worship the Christ, worship the King of the Jews. This caravan, one eyewitness in Damascus stated that from sunup to noon, a caravan continually passed through Damascus with 900 camels loaded with stuff. These people traveled with an army. It wasn't just 3 little kings riding on 3 little donkeys across the desert. It was a vast army, an ambassador of 17 nations from the east coming loaded down with gifts fit for a king. I mean, imagine a caravan parading, passing you by that lasted from sun up till noon, 5 or 6 hours. I'm sure it was more than 3 little kings carrying 1 little box. How much did they bring? No telling how much. But by some estimates, it was over $1 million was brought to worship and venerate the King of the Jews. Oh, this is amazing. My point is simply this. The story of Christ's birth is amazing. The details that God saw to, how even the stars aligned, even the planets aligned in the sky, making a conjunction with comets going over top of Jerusalem, and 7 lunar and solar eclipses occurring at that time is amazing. No wonder everybody was looking up. The fact that the mighty wise men traveled over 1,000 miles to worship the King is amazing. They walked for days to get there. The whole world started to talk about it. The King had come. And soon people would have to decide, will they worship the King or will they not? Jesus Christ is the only one worthy of our worship. Jesus Christ came and wise men went to worship him. This Christmas, as you look at the manger scene, as you watch the school plays, think about what Jesus did for you. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll do part 3 next, and then we'll conclude with little known details of the first Christmas. God bless you. Thanks for watching.